And with that, I see we are now live on YouTube. So we'll start our council meeting for Monday, March 15th, 2021. Well, want to welcome everyone to the meeting watching over YouTube and everyone right here with us on Zoom tonight. So I'll call the meeting to order and move right to the approval of tonight's agenda. Recommendation there reads that the agenda for the council meeting of March 15th, 2021 be approved as presented. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councilor Ostrander, seconded by Councilor Young. Just beat Leanne. Any comment on the agenda tonight? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Item 3, declarations of interest. Any declarations tonight from members of council? Seeing none. 4 and 5, presentations to delegations. Neither on either item tonight. 6 is minutes of our previous council meeting. So 6.1 is our meeting minutes from March 1st, 2021. Recommendation that the council minutes of March 1st, 2021 be accepted as presented. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councilor Shankar, seconded by Councilor Ostrander. Any comments, questions on that set of minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Item 7, communications and petitions. Nothing there formally this evening. 8, under consent reports. As always, we are considering these matters routine. They'll be enacted by one motion unless anyone wants to have them separated. So before we go into that recommendation, does anyone want to separate any one of these items this evening? Seeing none, I'll move forward towards the recommendation then that all items listed under the consent report section of the agenda be accepted as presented. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councilor McConnell, seconded by Councilor Ostrander. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. 9, under committee reports, we have nothing there this evening. 10, mayor's portion of the evening. Not too much to comment on tonight, just 2 quick ones. I will note that we did have a meeting last week under the Joint Services Committee umbrella. That was basically of the modernization group that basically Mayor Jason Baker of Brockville was a representative there, but we were all invited to that, and I'm sure everyone's seen the media coverage with regards to the fire services report and comments there. I will note that that report will be coming back to all of the councils, and this will be discussed further with the joint services partners as well. So everyone will have their chance to provide comment on that report when it's distributed out to the rest of council. It's just wanted to make sure everyone knew that, because some of the recommendations there were a little controversial last week, and I think it's something we all need to have a chance to sort of chime in on. And the other item I would note, because we are funding partners, of course, with the Eastern Ontario Regional Network, the announcement is coming up this Friday. I believe that's the 19th, to announce the successful proponent who will be handling the cell gap expansion. Work on that will start imminently, right after the announcement is made. It's really an exciting time. It's a project worth in the hundreds of millions of dollars that will improve cellular connectivity across all of Eastern Ontario. And I will note there will be improvements even in the urban areas. That's always been one of the questions about everything EORN does, is how much of it's aimed at rural as compared to urban. And I have seen the engineering as a member of the board, and there will be a lot of expansion in and around all of the urban centers in Eastern Ontario that contributed towards the project. Prescott, of course, is included there. So we should see stronger and more reliable cellular connections for phone and data in the weeks and months to come. So exciting day for the whole region, and that's coming up this Friday. That's it for me this evening. We'll move on to 11 and outside boards, committees, and commissions. And as always, start with Councillor Burton.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Nothing from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Short but sweet. Councillor Jansman, please.
Thank you. The BIA met last week, and it was a productive meeting. The budget was approved, along with further discussion on the projects that they're hoping to get done this year and the prioritizing of them. So and the new members were active at that meeting. So very productive and an active bunch. And I think that's all for me, Mayor Todd. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jansman. Councillor McConnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Just the usual, I'll draw attention to the public library again. The hours that they're keeping at this present time, 11 in the morning till 5 at night. Any questions there? You can phone 925-53. I'm sorry. I've got the wrong phone number. That's Walker House. Susan Ballum has things well in hand at Walker House again. The building is not accessible due to the flood that we had there, but she's got lots of things going on Zoom. And any questions that you have there, give her a call at 925-5300. Shakespeare is meeting this week, and we will be deciding on how we're going to present this summer. And I'm looking forward to that discussion a little later on Tuesday or Thursday of this week. That's it for me, Mayor Todd. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McConnell. Councillor Ostrander, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. As you noted in your packet this week, it's the Prescott Fire Department. They had the reports for both January and February. Just go over them basically. They had one structure fire in February, none in January. Activated alarms were one in CO alarms, one in January, 6 in February. Go down to the calls in Augusta, none in January, 3 in February, and the calls in Edwardsburg Cardinal, 2 in each month of January and February. Total volunteer hours, 531 for January, 372 for February. Those numbers are high because the guys are getting extra time to do training that they would normally spread out a little more into March, April, May, that type of thing. But they've got caught up, and they've also got 3 new hires just here, and I think 1 in January and 2 in February. There was 2 resignations. Captain John Henry has left, and Ken Rundle left just the end of January. He left. Matter of fact, he's moved from town. Sorry to see him go. He was a big help at the food bank as well. One of the anniversaries we had in January and February here was of particular note. Brent Norton has 40 years with the Prescott Town Fire Department. And I was just wondering, perhaps in collaboration with Barry, could you see if there's a special recognition? That's a long haul as in any doing anything, but particularly when you're volunteering your time and cold nights and hot days and all the rest of it. So I'm just wondering if there's something provincially perhaps that we could look into for him. That's like I said, that's a real milestone, and I think we'd be remiss if we didn't do something for that. So anyway, that's my report for this time around. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Mike. Just over to Matthew, I guess, on that one. We usually do the Fire Service Awards in collaboration with the department every year. Obviously, we haven't because we haven't been meeting in person. So that's something we should probably check up on and see if there's a little catching up we're going to need to do there at some point to honor a number of people like Brent, of course. He's 40 years. Wow.
Certainly. I'll reach out to the fire department and we can certainly have that discussion.
Great. Thanks very much for bringing that forward, Councillor Ostrander. Good points there. Councillor Shankar, please.
Thank you. Councillor McConnell, myself, and the mayor, we met this last week to help pick out volunteers of the year and business of the year, and also the person of the year. So that's all going to come through, and hopefully we'll have a nice celebration. Hopefully not just virtually, but maybe we can actually hand out an award. But that was fun. It's nice to see so many applications put in on that, and looking forward to it. Other than that, nothing more. I think we have a joint service meeting this week as well. So should be a busy week. Thank you.
Very much, Corey. Councillor Young, please.
No, not too many outside meetings right now, Brett. We did meet one day last week to talk about the community grant program, which we will deal with later on in the agenda.
Thank you very much, Councillor Young. One other quick item I should have noted, we did receive, I guess the press release went out today, so it is official now. And it's John Walsh, President and Chief Executive Officer of Rideau St. Lawrence Utilities. I believe, Ray, you'd know best with that one, I think, but I think John's been with RSL since the beginning. He is retiring now, coming up. They haven't set an absolute firm date yet. They're going to start the recruiting process, and he'll be assisting in that process. So just want to take a moment to acknowledge Mr. Walsh for a lot of years of fantastic service. He's always been a true gentleman and a professional to deal with whenever we've needed anything.
Sure.
He'll be greatly missed. Obviously, he was one of the building blocks of RSL from the very start. So, you always say there's big shoes to fill, but in this case, it's actually true. So, all the best to John in his retirement, and thank him on all of our behalf for his great commitment to the region. I did talk to Hugh George today as well, who's our RSL representative, and we are working on bringing both John and Hugh to council in the not too distant future for an update just on all things relating to Rideau St. Lawrence Utilities. Been a busy year with them, of course, with the pandemic and a lot of regulations, ups and downs. So it'll be good to hear from them as well. Matt, I did ask if we could coordinate that for April. So if we could try to see if we can come up with a date that works for both those gentlemen to come in.
Certainly.
Thank you. So I just did want to mention that tonight. Anyhow, thanks everyone. We'll move along to item 12. So we do have a fairly busy agenda still up tonight. So 12 under staff tonight, starting off under 12.1 is a presentation on Digital Main Street. Matt, am I going to you first for an introduction, or are we going to throw Justin to the Sharks right off the bat?
I think actually we'll ask Dana to do a little bit of intro, and then we'll pass it over to Justin.
Okay, take it away, Dana.
Thank you, Mayor Todd, through you to council. So we're very excited to have our Digital Main Street Coordinator, Justin St. Pierre, here with us tonight. He's going to be presenting you with an update on the Digital Main Street program that he was hired to coordinate back in October 2020. And we're very excited. It's been, we're getting some really great results. Our businesses, the response from the business community has been really overwhelming, and we couldn't be more happy with the participation levels of the businesses. It's been really great to see, and we're getting a really good mix of businesses that are involved. And it's a regional partnership as well that we were really excited to embark on this year. So it's in partnership with Augusta and Edwardsburg Cardinal Township. And we've been able to serve a number of their businesses as well as part of the program. So we thought it would be a good time to bring Justin in and provide council with an update and an opportunity for you to meet face to face. I'm not even sure if every member has had an opportunity to meet with him with the pandemic and lockdown. So this hopefully will be a good opportunity to touch base, and Justin is always available for any questions, follow up, and looks forward to serving the businesses for the remainder of the program. Over to you, Justin.
Thank you, Dana. I'm just going to share up the presentation, which is actually included in your package, but I'll put it up on the screen as well. Here. So before I get into the specifics of the program, I want to talk overall about the Digital Service Squad numbers that we've had. The Digital Service Squad is technically what my position is through the Digital Main Street. It's working directly with businesses, helping them with whether it's specific technological projects, trying to figure out what works best for specific businesses, or moving them towards the other Digital Main Street programs that I'm going to talk about through this presentation. Throughout South Grenville in the partnership, we've had 99 businesses that have been engaged so far. 57 have completed what's called the digital assessment, which is sort of the intake document for Digital Main Street. Overall, there's been 190 meetings directly with businesses for more engaged type interactions, which have been part of the Digital Service Squad program. The main thrust attached to the Digital Service Squad program was what was called the Digital Transformation Grant. It allowed eligible businesses to apply for up to $2,500 to assist them with digital projects. These eligible businesses were those that were located within a BIA area in Prescott, or those that were zoned consistently with that. The applicants had to complete that digital assessment that I already mentioned, as well as what they called their digital skills training, which was a series of videos which allowed them to find out more about how to do things such as SEO, email marketing. These applications were assessed by OBIAA, the Ontario Association of the BIAs. There were 16 total applications from the town of Prescott. 15 of those were approved by OBIAA for a total of $37,500 that was invested in the local businesses through that. At the same time, council had approved a separate DTG grant for businesses that were not eligible due to that strict zoning requirement, or perhaps for another requirement that was part of their eligibility. There were 3 total applications for that and 3 approvals for the Prescott grant totaling $7,500. I've included some of those businesses on the bottom that did receive that digital transformation grant in Prescott. I'm going to talk about a couple success stories in more detail a little later, but this is a good cross-section of the types of businesses that were able to access this funding through the digital transformation grant. The second main program for Digital Main Street was called Future Proof. It's still ongoing. It's managed in our area by Launch Lab, which is the Regional Innovation Center for Eastern Ontario, located in Kingston. Through Future Proof, businesses could be assigned what was called a transformation team, which was 5 highly skilled individuals that would work directly with the business on marketing, branding, web development, SEO, marketing. And rather than just leaving them with some ideas, they took care of part of that initial implementation, as well as work directly with the business for skills development. So this was a very hands-on process that turned out a hard document that businesses could lean on in the future, as well as work directly with them to learn how to implement these skills and how to keep them going in the future. One of the pilot projects for Future Proof was actually Katarina's in Prescott. There was just recently a Digital Main Street Launch Lab success story video about Katarina's participation. We've had a total of 12 businesses in the South Grenville Partnership that have taken part in Future Proof. 6 of those were located in Prescott. It had a much wider eligibility criteria than the DTG, so we were able to get a larger cross-section of businesses into it. But at the same time, it was still focused on those sort of core businesses in the community, retail-oriented businesses. The third program is the Shop Here program, in which a business can apply and is assigned what they called an e-commerce coordinator, who again would work directly with the business in both implementation and training so they could get an e-commerce site up and going. These businesses did not necessarily have to be traditional brick and mortar businesses. They could be home-based businesses. They could be very recent startups. And it gave them the opportunity to put together an e-commerce site and start selling online. As well, it provided them with the skills moving forward to be able to continue utilizing that. They weren't left simply with a website that they may not know how to operate. They were taken through that entire process so that they were left with an idea of how to use things when they were finished. As well, they received things like a 90-day free subscription to the e-commerce platform that they chose, as well as credits for popular online advertising sources. We've had 13 businesses in Prescott that have registered for Shop Here. And they have not necessarily only been those that are retailing goods. For example, a business that might use it for scheduling for a more service-oriented business can use it as well. So we've had a good cross-section that have taken up on that program. As I said, I'm going to show you a couple success stories that we've had. These are businesses that have fully engaged with the broad cross-section of the VMS services. The first is Katarina's, which, as I mentioned, was one of the original Future Proof pilots. And through Future Proof, they were able to develop a comprehensive branding and social media strategy. This included looking at things like the logo was developed through the Future Proof program, was looking at how they would brand their business on social media, what sort of message they would be putting out there. Once they got that in place, they went into the Shop Here program where they were able to activate an e-commerce platform, which they now use for pre-ordering. You can order online and pick up in store. In order to fully utilize that, they also needed to implement some new hardware solutions. So in that process, Nicole and I had discussed what was required to be able to know when people were ordering something and know that they weren't missing any orders. So that was looking into some hardware options, which she was then able to use DTG funding to help fund. As well, she's able to do some ongoing social media and design training that's being funded at least partially by the Digital Transformation Grant. A second really great success story is Old Magic Shop in downtown Prescott. Old Magic was unique in that they already had a pretty robust social media following on Facebook, but they weren't utilizing a lot of other tools. So through the Digital Main Street programs, through the Digital Transformation Grant, they were able to develop an online teaching and event hosting platform. So they'll be able to perform workshops, catalog them, and open up a new line of e-commerce through that. They were able to activate an e-commerce store through the Shop Here program, and this is interesting and provides some context to why that program can be so useful. Sherry at Old Magic went into that not being particularly sure about Shopify and being able to use that online platform, but working with the e-commerce coordinator, she became quite adept at using it and had sales almost immediately. She was able to use DTG funding to increase her digital marketing efforts to sort of provide for a broader audience. And after some discussions and looking into possibilities, she's also started a series of Facebook live streaming events that have really led to an increase of followers and keep her customers engaged. In order to ensure that people were able to utilize the programs, knew about them, and had some trust in them, we utilized some social marketing that sort of worked on the idea of vouching from existing businesses as they went into the program. So over to the side of the screen, you'll see some of our static advertisements that we use with some of those initial businesses that went through the various aspects of the program, where they were able to vouch for the way those services worked, what they were able to do through them. We also used a series of social videos where we had small business owners who were accessing things like the Digital Transformation Grant record some testimonial videos, just short videos that we were able to put up on the BIA website that were shared quite widely, viewed quite widely, and I think increased the likelihood that other businesses would apply for that programming. We've also put together, at this point, it's been one Y2 webinar. We called them Y2 webinars because the idea was not to give people how-to advice, but why to use these specific tools. So for the first, we had two local businesses, Dental Hygiene on Location and Old Magic Shop, to discuss the ways in which they use social media and how to personalize the experience to draw in customers. We had 14 people attend that webinar. And the best part was that as we were talking towards the end, both the two businesses that took part, as well as the people who were watching, were engaging back and forth about different ideas of what to do and how to market going forwards. We've also started to put together a brief podcast where we're talking with some of the businesses that are doing various parts of the Digital Main Street program, providing them sort of a platform to discuss their business in general and these specific things they're doing through Digital Main Street, as well as provide other businesses the opportunity to see what's possible, get some ideas, look at sort of success stories that have happened through utilizing this technology and different digital aspects in their business. We're finding that the businesses very much like to take part in these and that the community is listening to them. And just sort of finally from that, one of the things we start to put together is a business resource library where we'll have specific resources for businesses all in one place. And those last two examples that I gave, the webinars and the podcasts, one of the great things about them is that they're providing lasting, ongoing content about implementation so that we can point back to that and say these are specific ideas that other businesses have had and used, and perhaps it's something that you can implement in your business. At the same time, we're able to link businesses with specific resources, those how-to resources in one place. So there's some place to point businesses to, some place to add new information as it comes, and something that can grow into the future. That is the conclusion of my presentation. I don't know if there would be questions or.
Thanks very much for that, Justin. It just before I open up for questions, just beyond impressive. Great work all around. On your behalf, Dana's, all the team here at Town Hall, and it's something to be proud of, even in this this last tough year, and not just proud on our behalf at Town Hall, but the whole community. How many people have actually stepped forward and tried to take this crisis and turn it into opportunity, and we're really seeing that with what people have done with Digital Main Street. And I will note, Justin did mention briefly the video that was done. I think it was by Launch Lab. That features Nicole Hudson. I shared it on Twitter last week. I'm not sure if it's on Facebook as well, but I encourage everyone to look it up. It is tagged on the Prescott the official municipal account as well. It's a great little glimpse of the great work that Nicole Hudson and her team at Katarina's have done, and also just how valuable the Digital Main Street program is overall. So again, thanks for this report tonight, Justin, and thanks so much for all the hard work on this entire project. So open it up for questions. I think I saw Councilor McConnell with his hand up a moment ago, and Councilor Young, please.
You did, Mayor Todd. Thank you. Justin, can you explain to us a little better what the term future-proof means?
So in general, the term future-proof is sort of a business school term for the idea of making a business better able to adapt to challenges that might arise in the future. In this particular case, they're using it to specifically apply to making businesses more digitally adept, making them better able to use the internet, use technology in order to sustain business during unforeseen downturns.
It sounds like a good thing to have. Thank you.
Councilor Young, please.
Thank you, Justin. This YouTube broadcast that we're doing right now has a huge following. Thousands of people watch it every week, I'm sure. Some of them might be wondering about getting involved in the program now. Is there a certain intake date, or can somebody phone you tomorrow and you start over with them specifically tomorrow, or how does that work?
So essentially the digital transformation grant now is closed, but the other programs are still operational. We know for certain that Shop Here will run through the end of June. I believe that Future Proof will continue into the spring as well. I'm continuing on the Digital Service Squad portion of the project. So businesses that wanted to do different parts of Digital Main Street can continue to contact me, and we can continue looking at possible fits for them.
Okay, do they contact you through the town hall number?
So they can contact me at dss@prescott.ca, or they can visit our website, which is sgdss.weebly.com.
Okay, you see how old I am. I still think in terms of phone numbers, but obviously everybody else thinks digitally, and and that's fine. Okay, thank you, Justin. Keep up the
Just-
good work.
Just to chime in, you can call my extension at Town Hall and that will be passed on to Justin as well, for those who do prefer the traditional phone method.
Thank you.
Councillor
Extension is 6221, sorry, 925-2812.
No worries. Councillor Burton, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. It's interesting that our businesses had to get extra creative during COVID. And I think it's great to hear the success stories that we have right here in town. I think it really has broadened the marketing platform for these businesses. So thank you, Justin, for really getting involved and helping our businesses move forward. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Burton. Other comments, questions? Oh, I think oh, Dana, another comment?
Just a quick update. Justin kind of alluded to the fact that he was going to be here continuing to serve the businesses. We were very excited to receive, actually, we've had a windfall of funding come in. We've received a month of salary funding through the Grenville CFDC and the Community Economic Development Program. So that'll be running from March 1st to 31st. And we were very excited to receive that. And not shortly after received word of that funding, I was informed that the OBIA has offered an extension to the coordinator wages until the middle of June. So we're just waiting to hear what the final approved amount will be, but we know for sure that we are going to receive some additional wage funding that will hopefully take us right through to the middle of June.
Good news.
Fantastic news. And my last point, just for anybody that's still maybe on the fence about this, I'll just refer back to a comment Justin made earlier, because I talked to Sherry at Old Magic as well. And I think she had her first sale here within 10 minutes of getting everything up and online. So that shows the impact that you can have. So if there is anyone out there seeking some assistance here, please let us know. Our team is there to help. So thanks again, Justin. Thanks, Dana, for that great update this evening. Much appreciated. And from that, we go straight into 12.2 and cannabis. So that's 27-2021 concerns with cannabis production facilities. We did have a request to bring this back at a previous meeting. Lindsay, you provided a little background here. Can you just touch on some of the main points and note the option here tonight for council?
Of course. Through you, Mayor Todd. As you said, I think it was Councillor Young had requested that something be brought back on this resolution of support from St. Charles. So the report just outlined some of the concerns voiced by municipalities in regards specifically to lack of communication and facilities operating without notifying the municipalities. And as you said, if council chooses to move a motion to support the resolution, or a resolution can be brought back for a final consideration at the April 6th meeting as well.
Thank you very much, Ms. Velkamp. Ray, did you want to comment on that before I open it up?
Sure. Thank you, Brett. Lindsay's report covered the issue that I had for sure, and that was with regard to that fire call about an explosion that we had in one of our plants back in June 18th. And although we have to remember that that particular operation was strictly illegal, there was absolutely no knowledge in this community that it was operating there. So at the time of the fire, our volunteer firefighters, the EMS and the OPP entered that building with absolutely no warning of what they were walking into. And what they were walking into was a very dangerous situation. So while the motion supporting the original resolution didn't deal with the grow ops as such, I think it's important that we support it. I have no idea. I can't remember the number. I think it was a small number of plants for medicinal purposes, 6 or whatever it is. But you know what's going to happen is eventually somebody will take 6 into 60, and then we will be dealing with this type of possibility in the future. So I would like to support the resolution and go on record as saying that I think the municipality must be informed, whether it's for medical marijuana for an individual or an operation that is meant to sell cannabis down the road.
Thank you very much, Councillor Young. The only question do we have any updates? Is the province, is anyone working on anything along these lines? So I noticed that the original motion goes back to August of 2020. And I know it just came through St. Charles in February of 21. I'm just wondering if this would be the right wording for that, or if there's something else we need to look into to make sure that whatever resolution we're supporting still has proper teeth and is fully relevant. Obviously, it was in February 21st for St. Charles, but do we have any information on that, Lindsay, Matt?
Off the top of my head, Mayor Todd, I don't, but if council wishes, I can prepare something with updated information and bring it back, and at that point to review and consider if council wishes.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Ray, if you're okay with that, it did sound like, since you're willing to support this, motion for staff direction to bring such a report back so we can pass the resolution at perhaps our next meeting.
Absolutely, I'd make that motion.
Anyone care to second that? Councillor Burton, and open that up for discussion on that motion. Any further comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote then. All in favor? Motion is carried. So yeah, Lindsay, if you could just get us just a little more background on that. I don't think you'd have to put too much effort into it, but just to see if there's anything else floating around there that perhaps would be even more direct and to the point, because obviously, there's some good issues here that should be dealt with. Thank you. And on to 12.3, staff report 28-2021. As was mentioned earlier in the meeting, community grants are up this evening. So the recommendation is that council approve the 2021 community grant payments totaling $38,350 as outlined in staff report 28-2021, and that council approve a one-time payment to the St. Lawrence Shakespeare Festival in the amount of $6,500 for the modernization of equipment, which will be supported by using the provincial modernization grant received by the town in 2019. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor McConnell, second by Councillor Young. Mr. Armstrong, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So similar to previous years, we have done the community grant intake, and which were due in January. The working group met on February 9th to review the applications, and what you see before you is the outcome of that meeting. So just quickly going through some of the ones that were slightly different than what was requested. So South Grenville Minor Hockey, similar to last year, the recommendation is to approve half now, and then once we know what's going on in the fall, approve the second half then. You'll note that Prescott Minor Soccer only requested $2,300, and so usually they receive $5,000 per year. So over the 2 years combined, it would only be $5,000. Prescott Figure Skating Club is only half now, and then review half later in the year. We didn't receive a Connect Youth application, so we would expect that in our second intake. And you can see that there's a fair amount that is still available for a second intake. St. Lawrence Shakespeare, they had the base amount of $18,000, which they've requested in the past, but also an additional amount of $6,500. And really that's to upgrade their IT equipment as well as their ticketing, things like that, where they would actually be able to create a concert goer or a performance goer database, be able to interact with their audiences from a future standpoint, as well as really taking their marketing and direct contact to the next level with their audiences. So That's why the thought was to put it under modernization, because really it's taking what they have now and being able to make their marketing efforts much better. And I believe right now all of their ticketing is actually done by a third party, and this will actually be able to bring it in-house, which therefore I think helps save money as well. So the last one is being Folk Fest, and the idea was approve half now, and then there was just a little bit of information that the working group was looking for in terms of exactly what the program for 2021 looked like, because it's obviously a big increase from $1,000 to $7,500. So as soon as that information is received, the working group would meet and then bring it back to council for further approval. So total recommendations this evening is $38,350 compared to a total request of $48,900. Our total budget's $58,000, and again the separate amount for $6,500 for St. Lawrence Shakespeare. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt. Just open it up for discussion, but I thought I'd turn it over to who's on the review committee again. I think Lee, you were on that, and who are the counselors on that group?
Mike and I.
Okay, just the three of you, if you wanted to just in comments, I'll open it up for you, you three first. Just if there's anything you did want to comment on, because obviously you're more intimately familiar with the applications than the rest of us. Mike, I'll go Mike first, and then
Okay.
Then you, Lee. I think Mike just beat you with the hand up. Councilor Ostrander, please.
Thank you. Actually, I think it was a little easier this year, just from the standpoint that we had just got into the COVID and the lockdown last March when we looked at this, and we had to do a fair bit of background to see who was going to be in the mix, who wasn't going to be in the mix, and you know, soccer, the various sports and that, we weren't sure whether they were going to be going ahead last spring. So I think we had the template from last year for this year, and it made it a lot easier. We added something like the Folk Festival that was held last fall, and it appears it's going again. But overall, Shakespeare's been a little easier to figure out. I think their program is going to be altered a little this year. I'll let Lee maybe elaborate on that. But overall, I think it was just a little more straightforward this year. And we put some credence into the second intake that'll come along between now and sometime in April, I guess, so that we can get a full picture then, and Matt could probably report back the final tally sometime later in the spring, I would think. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councilor Ostrander. Councilor McConnell, please.
Thanks, Mayor Todd. I think Matthew and Mike have pretty much said what I was thinking of saying. I will say that the amount requested by the Folk Festival was a big jump, as Matthew mentioned. However, that's something that kind of took us by surprise last year, given the limitation that they had on the amount of people that could attend, and the fact there was only one afternoon, and the fact it was a miserable day. But the excitement that people had, being able to get out, being able to view some entertainment, these people want to take this another step further. And when I look as a counselor at Brockville and the festivals that they have run over the years, and the amount of money that the city has actually lost in some of those festivals, the fact that we can contribute this a little bit of money and possibly have a very nice developing festival out of it, I think it's too good of a thing not to try. Matthew put the Shakespeare situation as well. They've been struggling along with essentially the same equipment, the same processes that they've had since they started. They are outdated. The new equipment, the new things that they will be able to do with that equipment is going to be good dollar-wise. It's going to save them money. And it's going to mean that they can contribute and connect with their patrons and possible patrons much better than they have in the past. So we're looking forward to that as well. The other organizations that we usually have that we contribute to, some of those didn't submit. They likely will later on in the season, but all in all, I think we've got a good suggestion of what we can do here with what we've done.
Thank you very much. Ray, as the third member of the triumvirate, do you want to have a go at this?
I'll just summarize by saying I'm pleased that we're still supporting figure skating, minor hockey, soccer. In the services division, we're supporting Food for All Food Bank, King's Kitchen. We're supporting Spirit of Giving and Girls Inc. So it's a good mix right through the community, and I'm very pleased that we can support these efforts.
Thank you very much. Open it up for other comments, questions from the rest of council this evening. Councilor Shankar. Councilor Burton, did you have your hand up there? Did I? Oh, sorry. Gory, please.
Good job by the committee. I think they've done a really nice job, and they've explained, how they've done it and why. So again, I think they've done a great job, and I'm willing to support this motion. And it's good for the town and being able to spread some of the grant money around to probably clubs that really need a break these days. So I'm all in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Shankar. Any other comments, questions? Councilor Burton.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. It's nice to know that we're doing a second intake. So if somebody missed it the first time around, they'll definitely have a chance to put in their application and see if they can get some funding. So it's good that they're going to have that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other final comments? Just have one or two myself. I fully support this as well, but just one question really, and just on Shakespeare and the modernization of equipment, it sounds like this is going to help with ticketing and so forth. I'm just wondering, were they involved with Digital Main Street at all? And was there an avenue for them to be involved there? Because I do see it's, Digital Main Street is not just for commercial. I'm wondering if there could have been some assistance there, or there was any connection. Matt, do you mind? Or
sure.
Justin?
I'll think, Dana, correct me if I'm wrong, but they were involved in Digital Main Street. And I just don't want to speak out of turn.
Yeah, yes, no, you're absolutely correct. They were a full participant in the Digital Main Street program, and they've engaged in a number of aspects. In fact, they were one of the town's DTG grant recipients as well.
Excellent. Good to see that they're taking advantage of all the opportunities. My only concern there is it's another $6,500. I mean, I supported them through the asks last year. I support this as well, but we're going to need to know what their plans are for dealing with things, sooner rather than later. And I know we will. I've talked to Richard a little bit about it. I don't really have any idea what's coming, but I would have preferred to have seen some of the plans before we approved even more funding. But regardless, we've in for a penny, in for a pound in some ways with Shakespeare, because it is such a vital festival and it's such a big thing for the town. Same thing with Folk Fest. George Tierney has really got his finger on the pulse there with regards to bringing in top acts. It was a great day last year, despite, as Lee mentioned, the weather was terrible, but it was really well attended. Everybody stuck it out through the whole day, despite the wind and the rain, and just an excellent show overall. So I'm hoping that the additional information will lead to some more funding, because I think we've really got an opportunity there to develop a brand new festival that'll be big for the fall region. Councilor Young.
I think one of the things we did learn through the application, Brett, it will be moved up a little bit into late September as opposed to middle of October. So that might help with the weather, and the dramatic increase in the ask was for more entertainment, which that's terrific.
Yeah, and I think part of it, they're looking at more local acts too, some
Right.
real right in around Prescott, Brockville in the area, which they weren't quite able to do last year because of the timing and so on. So that'll really bulk up it'll expand the ticket sales and everything as well. So there's some good things happening there. So anyways, that's my only comments there tonight. I do look forward to hearing how Shakespeare's going to manage this summer, and anything we can do to help them out, we've got to help them get back on their feet again. So with that, I'll return to the motion, which is on the table, and call for the vote. All those in favor? Motion is carried. And on to 12.4, that's staff report 29-2021 on the Eastern Ontario Transit Pilot Project. Mr. Armstrong, I believe you're taking us through this with some details on what we're embarking upon for transit in our neck of the woods here in Eastern Ontario.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So I'm very happy to announce to Council that we were successful in the Eastern Ontario Leadership Council's application process for a commuter strategy pilot project. So on behalf of the 4 municipalities, Prescott's taken a bit of a lead on this, and so we're very pleased that excuse me, that we've been successful in this. So one point I want to make is that none of this would be possible without the city of Brockville. And while they're contributing in kind, if they didn't have a surplus bus to use and they weren't willing to be the service provider, that this would be completely non-feasible. And would be the barriers to bring this forward would be insurmountable. So just want to give a large thank you to the city of Brockville and also our partners in Edwardsburg, Cardinal, and Augusta, realizing that this is a great opportunity to really help not only people working on a day-to-day basis to get back and forth to work, grow businesses, but also attract possible new employees and new customers. So we're very excited about bringing this to council to start to move to the next step. So we had a short meeting on Friday between the 4 partners just to discuss next steps. And I think the intention would be that Prescott would be the lead organization with the Eastern Ontario Leadership Council, and therefore we would sign the agreement for funding with them. From there, we would have a 4-party agreement between the 4 municipalities and be able to stipulate exactly the responsibilities and tasks that each municipality has to undertake in order to move this forward. And then finally, when you take a look at the financials for the pilot program, it's estimated to cost just a little more than $70,000. And that's based on calculations from City of Brockville for fuel per hour, maintenance per hour, and staffing per hour. So then once we go from there, if we're basing this on a 12-hour operating day and 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, then that's how we arrive at the $70,000. The Eastern Ontario Leadership Funding helps support that. Each municipality would put in a maximum of $10,000. Ridership revenue is estimated to be approximately $125 per day. And then that's how we're able to balance the total cost versus revenue. So lots of steps still to do. One is obviously the agreement with the Eastern Ontario Leadership Council. Second part is the agreement between the 4 partner municipalities. And finally, then it's on to actually deciding the route and the stops and that sort of thing. We fully believe that and want to stand behind a marketing program that would start approximately 4 weeks prior to the official launch date. And so if we're kind of talking about timing, then we're hoping that we can do our launch date in May, which would then allow us most of the month of May to be able to do that marketing effort and then be able to move those forward. So that's kind of where we are at this moment. What I'm asking for this evening is the ability to enter into a funding agreement with the Eastern Ontario Leadership Council the ability to negotiate and enter into an agreement with our 4 partners, and finally to approve up to $10,000 modernization funding to go towards the project. Thank you.
I apologize for weeding in without the recommendation. I had the older version of the agenda loaded up here and I couldn't find that momentarily. So the recommendation, as Matt just alluded to, is that council directs staff to enter into a funding agreement with the Eastern Ontario Leadership Council for the Commuter Strategy Pilot Project, and that council directs staff to enter into an operating agreement with the City of Brockville, Township of Augusta, and the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal for the Brockville to Cardinal transit route as part of the Commuter Strategy Pilot Project, and that council approve up to $10,000 of modernization funding to subsidize the operations of the Commuter Pilot Project transit service during the pilot phase. If I could ask for a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Ostrander, seconded by Councillor Burton. And with that, I'll open it up for comments, questions. Councillor Young, did you have a
No,
question?
no.
Councillor McConnell, please.
2 questions, if I may, Mayor Todd. What if this starts in May? What's the duration of the pilot project? And number 2, if the ridership does not come up as expected, who's going to pick up the balance?
Okay. So in terms of the pilot project, it's a 6-month duration, and that's stipulated by the Leadership Council. In terms of the ridership, then we would come back to council fairly quickly on to have that discussion if we're not successful. But it would basically be the 3 out of the 4 partners. So Prescott, Edwardsburg Cardinal, and Augusta.
Follow up, Councillor McConnell.
Yeah, are we committed to the 6 months if we find out that the ridership is not there? I mean, if we run it for 4 months and we find the ridership just isn't there, are we committed to running it for the 6 months, or can we cut it at that point? I'm hoping that that's not the case, but I just don't want to see us get stuck with a significant bill, because I have a feeling one of our local partners might not be willing to pony up.
Okay. So certainly there's a caveat in the agreement for being able to take a pause on the pilot if COVID is affecting the results. So that has been worked into the agreement. But in terms of the overall length, I believe the Leadership Council has a requirement with their funder, which is through Training and Education of Ontario, through the province, to run a 6-month pilot. But certainly we can address it as part of the agreement.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor McConnell. Councillor Shankar, please.
Oh, good. Thank you, Mayor Todd. So a couple of questions I have. I do think the operating costs may be a little underfunded, but I assume that those numbers came from maybe Brockville Transit. Okay,
That's correct.
Fair enough. And secondly, along the same lines as Councillor McConnell, are we going to get like maybe an update every month or every 2 months, so that if the ridership revenue is not up to par, we don't want to find out after 6 months that we've only made $5,000 and we're on the hook for $11,250. So is there going to be some sort of a check and balance on that? Thank you.
Absolutely. So through you, Mr. Mayor, we would absolutely check in on a monthly basis and just keep the council apprised of how it's coming along, as well as there might be requirements to shift gears a little bit from time to time, whether that's changing where the stops are, perhaps changing slightly the timing, in the morning and the evening when it starts and stops. And so all of those will be brought to council on a regular basis, but I'm more than happy to be able to provide council with a monthly update to make sure that things are not going off the rails.
Okay. One last question. I do see that it says $125 a day. What are we thinking of charging per ride, I guess?
So the initial thought, and while we haven't completely decided on that, but my initial thought was $5 per ride each way. But we're still working with City of Brockville because we don't want to make it too complicated based on where you're getting on the bus, where you're going, things like that. So obviously in the City of Brockville, it's, I believe, $2.25. Whereas when you're outside of the city, then we're trying to come up with the alternative rate. So that's certainly something that we're considering, while at the same time making it easy for the bus operator as well as those that are using the bus to be able to determine how much they're supposed to be paying.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shanker. Councillor Burton, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Have we reached out to some manufacturers saying that we are going to be starting this program? This is all the ins and outs. There's something that, you know, to get the riders on the bus.
Yeah. So we did that as part of our survey and got some great feedback there. The next step that we'll do is those that identified that there might be somebody interested in taking the bus, is that we would provide with them some free passes kind of in that first month, so that people that might be interested in it have the opportunity to try it free and then be able to go from there. So when we're doing those types of marketing efforts, we will account for that in the revenue side and make sure that we're, you know, fully recording that.
Thank you for the explanation. I think that's a great idea with the free passes, because word of mouth is the best. So if somebody's saying, well, I'm taking a bus, you know, it's a great ride and you know, it cost me nothing this time, but it's going to be $5 per se down the road. So it might encourage other people to participate. So I think we're in the right direction, going in the right direction. Thanks.
Certainly.
Thank you very much,
Just to follow up on that, if I may, Mr. Mayor. So there's a couple of other things that we're also looking at. Obviously, books of 10. So you get 10 passes at a discounted rate, or the monthly pass that will allow you to use it unlimited. So there's those. Also, there's the United Counties as well as ODSP that use a transportation type service, and so we'll be working with them as well, and then working directly with our businesses to make sure that they're aware that they can advertise this to their employees and be able to provide free passes. So there's, from the employer standpoint, that's really what we're looking at. And then from, we're also working with CSE as well as the Employment Education Center to be able to link prospective employees with those services as well. So we see that as a great opportunity. And the Employment Education Center had actually done some work several years ago around a transit program for more rural sitting areas. And they're very excited about this possibility of us moving forward and being able to go from there. There's also the other side of this is our commercial grouping. And so being able to encourage people to come to Prescott and spend money. And so looking at different ways we can encourage that, perhaps through Prescott dollars. If you can show that you came on the bus, then being able to earn Prescott dollars for that. So there's a bunch of marketing ideas that we have, and to really encourage people to at least use it for a first time. And then if they really like it, then continue to use it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. Other comments, questions? I've just got one of my own. Matt, do we know if anyone else applied? What other municipalities were successful with EOLC here?
I'm not sure locally. I think they received a number of applicants. I know that they did not max out their funding. So I think there was only a handful that were approved, and they might be considering us a second intake. So, but certainly we were one of the few that were, and we're very happy about that.
I suggest that, and I know you've been in contact with it's Kathy Wood, isn't she the main lead on this, and pretty much I think she's working directly for the EOLC now, but if there's anything we can learn from some of the other organizations and municipalities that are doing this, I mean, just in terms of marketing and so forth, she may have already thought of that. In fact, she probably has, but some sort of conference calls, a Zoom with the other successful proponents might open up some other ideas, because I know when you're suggesting some of these ideas to me the other week about the marketing, were fantastic. And but so you've got great ideas like that. Maybe somebody else has them as well. And maybe there's ways we can sort of pool the brain power here across Eastern Ontario to make sure these efforts are successful. The only other comment I would make on, we've got to assess this, but I wouldn't want to get too excited about the monthly results as we get going. I think we're going to need a good amount of time to really gauge this, because people, no matter how well we market, how well we advertise, it is going to be something that's going to spin up probably slower than we would like to see. We do have the great survey that was done with the local industries. I know there was quite a bit of interest, I think Giant Tiger in particular, in the Edwardsburg Cardinal Industrial Park. So I think we're going to have some good usage there, and we're going to have to see. COVID is the one potential problem here, even starting in May. But I mean, we'll just take it as it goes. And I know Matt's been in communication with Kathy and the EOLC on this. So if there's anything that needs to change with how the pilots are rolling out, we can get it out there, because as I think Councillor McConnell pointed out a couple of times earlier, COVID's going to be a big factor here, and running it this spring and summer could be challenging. But with that said, the carrot at the end of this really is the provincial gas tax funding for transit systems. If we can establish the ridership and work on this and build it up over time, we do have funding coming back on this, which could help us keep it going, so we're not losing dramatic amounts of money, not having to subsidize the system while we slowly spin it and get it up and running for the region. So I think it's really exciting news overall, and I'm really happy that we're at this point. And I just want to close again, thank Brockville for this. This is something the city reached out to us right actually at the start of this term, where they had some added funding and we were talking about it, and it's grown to the point where the ELC got involved here, and it's really exciting actually. So if there are no further comments, I'll return to the motion, and I see no further comments, so I'll return to the motion and call for the question. All in favor? Motion carried. And Matt, I want to thank you on all this as well. I know you've put a lot of extra effort into this to get this going. We have taken the lead on this, so it is a lot of extra work and more to come. So I want to thank you for your added dedication there for spearheading this for us.
Certainly. Thank you very much.
And on to the budget tonight. We have two items there dealing with our budget that hopefully could very well wrap things up for the budget this year. 12.5 is staff report 30-2021. That's on the 2021 projects budget. Recommendation being that council approve the 2021 projects budget as outlined in staff report 30-2021. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Shankar, seconded by Councillor Ostrander. Matt, did you want to just sort of hit the highlights there and where we're at with the projects after that discussion 2 weeks ago?
Certainly. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So in total, the projects come to $2.8 million. Of note, obviously, $2 million is for a portion of Dibble Street East from Boundary working west, and then bridge work of $275,000. From there, there's additional support for the CIP program, $30,000 for helping to support the under one roof for Brockville General, and then a number of smaller types of projects to be able to really address smaller items, but at the same time focus on active transportation, doing some work along the Heritage Trail, as well as beautification plan for downtown. And so I think overall there's almost 2 full pages of projects, maybe a little bit more, and it certainly covers a lot of area that will be front facing for the residents of Prescott. So when you take a look at the overall reserves, we would start the year at approximately 7.7. A large draw in reserves is the project for Dibble Street East, and so ending the year at 6.8. But 1.2 of that is simply the project related to Dibble Street East. So many projects on the go, and we're happy to say that last week the Dibble Street project had its site meeting. I think there was quite a bit of interest, in excess of 5 potential bidders, and we should be receiving those bids, I believe, by the end of next week. And so we're looking forward to that and being able to get that on the go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. Councillor Young, as our finance chair, I'll give you the first crack at this. Any comments to lead us off?
Well, thank you, Brett. No, I'm pleased that there are 20 projects that we have identified out of maybe close to 100 that we want to move forward with. 2.8 million is a significant amount of money, and people will be happy. I think people are happy when they see their taxes being spent on something, whether they agree with the need for whatever or not. The fact that we are doing something and progressing is important. So 2.8 is a significant amount of money, and I'm pleased that we're moving forward with it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Young. Open it up to the rest of council for comments, questions on the recommendation and the items tonight. See no further hands going up. So with that, I will call the motion. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. And moving on with the budget this evening, we do have 12.6. That's staff report 31-2021. That's the 2021 operational budget. Recommendation reads that council approve the 2021 operational budget with total revenues and expenditures of $9,359,612, and that council approve the 2021 water and wastewater budget with total revenues and expenditures of $2,913,022. That council approve the final property tax payment for 2021 shall be split into 2 equal payments due August 31st, 2021 and October 29th, 2021, and that the 2021 estimates bylaw for $5,619,943, 2021 tax ratios bylaw, and 2021 capping thresholds bylaw be prepared for the council meeting of April 6th, 2021. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Young, seconded by Councillor Burton. Mr. Armstrong, care to take us through some of the highlights here? No surprises from what we talked about a couple of weeks ago, but we fine-tuned a little bit. So if you want to just kind of focus on where we're at and those final numbers tonight, please.
Certainly. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So we started with a inflationary increase of 0.78%. When we went back and took a look at the joint services budget that was approved, as well as the removal of a leased vehicle that's no longer required, and when we struck the decision to move to CGIS, which is our new software, we decided that we would use modernization funding for the first 3 years to support that project. So those were 3 changes that we incorporated into the budget, and it took us from 0.78 to 0.25. At the last council meeting, there was also a motion to add on the additional 1% in relation to the infrastructure dedicated to reserve. And so that brings us to 1.25% this evening, which is less than the 1.5% that council requested that we move forward with. So when we take a look at an average type home in the town of Prescott, or what we call the median, so half or above, half or below, then it would mean an overall increase of 1.12% year over year. When we take a look at our commercial properties, it would actually be a decrease because of the education taxes by almost 9%. And then for our industrial properties, almost 7%. So there is that adjustment that the province made to education taxes. And so it would actually drive those property taxes down overall for the businesses in our commercial and industrial assessments. So really what we're putting forward before you this evening is a budget that has a 1.25% increase. For our commercial and industrial properties, they will see actually a fairly substantial decrease. And then the average residential property would receive a 1.12% increase due to a slight change in the education tax rate. I think a couple of the other items that we wanted to highlight was that the operational budget has a net contribution to reserves of 785,000. Then there's the water and wastewater budgets that has a contribution to reserves of 551,000. And the water and wastewater budgets have a 0% intended or no change in the rates for this fiscal year for water and wastewater. So we've been as diligent as possible in terms of keeping a rate increase down. And that's what you see before you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. I'll start off with our finance chair again, Councillor Young, comments on the budget as presented this evening.
Thank you, Brett. I'm very satisfied with the 1.25% increase. I'm more impressed that Mr. Matthews or Mr. Armstrong, Matthew Armstrong, sorry, Matt, set out the agenda back in November, December, and we followed it. Every meeting was done properly and with the input of all of us. We came to this decision. I think staff, Matt and his staff should be commended for following the wishes that we had and producing a result that I think we can live with. That's good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Young. Open it up for other members of council for comments, questions. Oh, this is almost too easy. Oh, I spoke too soon. Councillor Shankar and then Councillor McConnell, please.
I'll be a lot faster than the next one. Just kidding, Councillor. No, I think you've done a great job, Matthew and staff. I know that I was happy with the 1.78, and I know that other councillors wanted it lower. So I think we found a very happy medium where we're still contributing to infrastructure, but we're balancing the budget, and we tweaked the budget a little bit to put costs in the right column, so to speak. So well done, and I think the homeowners of Prescott will be quite pleased, as will all the commercial properties and industrial properties, if they're seeing such a significant change in their taxes. So I think it's a good process, good job, and I'm fully on board with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shankar. Councillor McConnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I have a question as far as procedure, really. The wastewater management or the wastewater budget is presented here, and as one of the members of the wastewater management committee, along with yourself, we haven't passed the budget yet, to the best of my recollection, and I'm wondering how we can pass a budget as council when it hasn't gone through the management committee to be passed yet. Now, I realize that 4 of the 5 people on that committee are from Prescott, and it's going to get passed anyway, but it just seems to me a matter of procedure. I'm not sure whether we should be passing before the management committee passes.
I believe we did pass it at the management committee right before Christmas. We had that second meeting. Matthew, is my recollection correct there that we did?
That's correct. I believe we passed the budget for the wastewater treatment plant at the December meeting, and that's what's being contemplated and included in this one.
Okay, I guess I got a bad memory then, because I recall discussing it. I recall objections from the member who is not part of our council here, and I wasn't remembering that we actually went through with it. So that's fine. As you know, I've never been in favor of the extra 1%. I mean, we put hundreds of thousands of dollars a year into reserves of various kinds in the town to take another 1% on top of all those and add it again every year. I'm not in favor of. However, at our last meeting, we were at 0.78% of a property tax increase. I requested that go down to 0. It didn't go down to 0. However, you did make a very good effort at it. You put it down to 0.25, I believe it was. And given the fact that we have no increase in water or wastewater fees this year, given the fact that our commercial and industrial people are going to be taking a pretty good reduction, and given the fact that we have put off collecting our taxes to the end of March and to the end of October and to the end of August, I think that all of those things taken into consideration this year, I will swallow the 1% and vote in favor of the 1.25. So thank you very much, Matthew, for the work that you've done on this. I know the 1% isn't your fault, so I'm not going to blame you for it, but a job well done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McConnell. Other comments, questions on the budget motion this evening? Seeing no further comments, just add my usual 2 cents. I just want to thank staff and thank all of council in particular. It's been a good process this year, and I think the results speak for themselves. Coming in at the 0.25, along with the 1% for the infrastructure, gets us to a really good position here, and I think this will pass. I'm judging unanimously tonight based on the comments. I just want to note for everyone out there, I mean, we've accomplished quite a bit. We've done digital Main Street, funding for not-for-profits. We've put money back out there to assist businesses as well during COVID. We've also put 2.8 million into key infrastructure projects. And at the same time, I think it's between 1.3 and 1.4 million being contributed back to reserves as well across operations and water and wastewater. And despite that, we're still only at a 1.5 across the board, and we're 0 for water and wastewater charges. So that, folks, is a damn good budget as far as I'm concerned, especially given the challenges that we faced as a municipality here. We have faced those challenges, and we've done our best to help our residents overcome them while still keeping an eye on those infrastructure needs that we have to address. And this solid budget, solid project list, and I'm quite proud of all of us this evening. I think this is a good night for us. The numbers are good, the projects are good, and it'll be a good year for us as we come out of COVID. Councillor Young?
I just was going to respond to Lee's comment about the money that we're putting in reserves. I believe actually during 2021, we will be taking out of reserves more than we're putting into reserves. Are we not, Matthew?
That's correct.
Yeah, so something like $150,000 will be coming out of reserves during this year. And the only reason we can do that is that we have that 1% going in to the reserves. So yes, we are putting in 800,000 to reserves, but we're removing more than 900,000. So it's a net loss this year in terms of reserves.
Mm-hmm. But still a contribution, which we're not just draining the reserves as well. So it balances off in a way that's, I think, is pretty impressive considering how much we're doing. So yeah,
I agree.
Excellent point. So with no further comments, then I will call for the question. All in favor? Motion carried. And thanks everyone for what I think was a very good budget process for 2021. And 13 resolutions, none this evening, 14 bylaws. We do have one bylaw under 14.1. That's the appointment of our new fire chief. Recommendation is that bylaw 12-2021, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 03-2011, being a bylaw to appoint a fire chief and deputy fire chief, be read and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed by the seal of the corporation. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Jansman, seconded by Councillor Young. Mr. Armstrong, quick comment there. I mean, it's already out there in the public and everybody is aware of this, but just for those that haven't noticed the big change down at the fire department, if you could just review that briefly, please.
So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So Chief Morehouse announced his resignation earlier this year, I believe in January, and that started the recruitment process. We're very happy that effective April 1st of 2021, Rennie Rayner will be our new fire chief here at the town of Prescott, and went through a very good recruitment process. Fantastic candidates, and certainly he stood above. And then we're very happy to attract somebody with that illustrious career as well as exceptional experience and knowledge. And so we really look forward to Mr. Rayner starting with us as our fire chief as of April 1st.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. Open it up for comments, questions. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. There is a brief reference to the deputy fire chief in the bylaw, but traditionally, and I assume still, the fire department themselves vote on the officers and the deputy chief. And it's my recollection that the deputy chief has already been appointed for the term of council. And the captains would have been voted on at the first meeting in January. Is that correct? Michael? Yeah.
It is,
Okay.
yep.
Thank you.
So if I may just follow up.
Yeah, certainly.
So in terms of the bylaw, only the chief and deputy chief are named in terms of what we bring forward. And so there's no change to the deputy chief, but we did require a change to the fire chief.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Young. Any comments, questions from members of council? Councillor Burton, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I'd just like to welcome Rennie. He is very excited, very knowledgeable, and going to be the fire chief. I think he's going to be a great asset to our department and to our town. So welcome to Rennie. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other comments, questions? I just want to echo the same thing. We've already made the announcement, of course, but Councillor Burton had that absolutely correct. We've certainly landed a great fire chief here. Rennie combines professional expertise with a love of community that we couldn't find, quite frankly, in anyone else. So we're all very excited about adding him to the team here. And I have asked Mr. Armstrong to see about bringing Rennie in along with Barry before the changeover is fully realized, or sometimes in April, so we can get an update. And I think everyone, or most of us, probably have met Rennie or know Rennie anyways, but it'd be good to do that formally to introduce him to council and also to the public, and just have a chance to hear directly from him. We're all very excited about bringing him on board. So with that, I see no further comments, so I will call the question. All in favor? Thanks, everyone. Motion is carried. And with that, we are through the formal majority of the meeting here. So new business under 15. Any member of council have any new business to bring forward tonight? Seeing no. 16, notices of motion. Any member of council have a notice of motion to bring forward? Seeing no. 17, mayor's proclamations. Nothing this evening. 18, closed session. I'll just ask staff. I don't think we're going to be too long on this. So if everyone's okay, can we just move right into the closed without a recess this evening?
Sure.
Everyone all right? Okay, so we'll do that then. So we'll proceed with the motion under 18, recommendation being that council move into closed session at 7:34 p.m. to address matters pertaining to 18.1, approval of closed session minutes, and 18.2, board appointments. That's under section 239B of the Municipal Act, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and 18.3 land updates, also under section 239, but this is C of the Municipal Act, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and that the CAO treasurer, clerk, interim director of operations, economic development officer, and deputy clerk remain in the room. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor McConnell, seconded by Councillor Ostrander. All in favor? Motion is carried. So we'll move right into the closed session as soon as we leave YouTube here. We will be back though for the Rise and